Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Wight, and I am here to walk you through Edible City and Art Atlas, Cincinnati's food shed, past, present, and future. I am at Wave Pool Art Gallery, which is where the show is being held. And this is a digital run-through for all of us that are stuck at home during the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. So this project grew out of a timeline that was put together a couple years ago by myself and other people, simply highlighting the rich history that Cincinnati has. So what we have here, this is an art show where the project has commissioned artists to do pieces around very specific parts of our history. As mentioned, the Cincinnati and Ohio Valley region has a rich food and farming history, and this project and these original artworks celebrate our food system's evolution and related innovations. I want to mention that this is a green umbrella project. It's part of the Greater Regional Cincinnati Food Policy Council. They are hosting the project, and we have an amazing list of partners, including Wave Pool, Findlay Market, the Cincinnati Museum Center, and we also have some really good sponsors that I'd like to thank. The William H. Thie Fund of the Greater Cincinnati Foundation, Xavier University, the Brueggemann Center, the Carol Ann and Ralph V. Hale Jr. U.S. Bank Foundation, University of Cincinnati, and also the Christ College of Nursing and Health Sciences. I work for the Christ College of Nursing and Health Sciences, and I also work for the University of Cincinnati. This project has a handful of deliverables. One is a coffee table book, which is in process right now, a food policy pamphlet, regional art exhibitions, of which this one is the first, as well as a series of community events, which have been put on pause for the moment. So I'm just going to walk you through, and we're going to be focusing here on the art. No, for real. On the art. Okay. All right, so we're back. So this is a piece that was done by Josh Pfeiffer, and this is highlighting the historic waterways of Cincinnati. So many people may or may not know that Cincinnati is actually located where it is because of the Mill Creek's intersection with the Ohio River, and how from the Mill Creek we were able to build a series of canal systems that connected to the rest of the state, and ultimately to the Great Lakes, which provided transportation for many of our agricultural products out to the East Coast, also down through the Gulf of Mexico if you follow the river. And this work is simply showing you some of our aquatic history in terms of the power of water, right? Most cities are located on or near a body of water in terms of transportation. This next piece, this is called Brown Fields of Green, which was done by Cal Cullen. And this is actually showing you brown fields and underused industrial or commercial property. It's really interesting when you begin to think about community gardens in the context of our food system and the geographic locations where many community gardens happen. Often one of the major challenges for community gardens is understanding the quality of the soil, and if there is lead in the soil, and what can and cannot be done in a given site. Over here, we have an original work that was done by Nate Kemphuis. This is showing you some of the industrial food smells of the lower Mill Creek Valley. Nate is an avid bicyclist. He's also a map maker, as you can tell. And so these are the things that Nate would smell. Crisco tanks, for example. Sam Adams Brewery. The Kroger State Avenue processing plant. The Mill Creek is the basis for for much of our industry here in the region, and that's where a lot of our producers are located in terms of some of our food products. Cincinnati has a special place in history regarding pork packing, and meat disassembly. So this is a 1873 art piece that was put together by Henry Farney, and this is showing you the disassembly process that was actually invented here in Cincinnati. So Cincinnati's nickname is Porkopolis because of this. At one point in time, we were processing more animals. We were deconstructing more animals than any other place on the planet. This also relates to the German heritage of the city. And the rumor is that Henry Ford actually visited Cincinnati to take a look at the disassembly line as he was thinking about the assembly line for automobiles. This next piece comes from the Cincinnati room in the Library of Cincinnati in Hamilton County. And this is showing you an advertisement about how Kahns Meatpacking is more than happy to have the government come in and provide them with the seal of approval. And a lot of this had to do around America's ability to export its products. You'll see the Mill Creek in the background right here. And this current site that we're seeing is, this site that we're seeing is now the current site of Rheingeist's new brewery operation, which is in the Mill Creek. Camp Washington specifically is home to Queen City Sausage and used to be home to many other butchers and meat processors. This right here is showing you goats being slaughtered in Kahns meat packing plant. This image was provided by Queen City Sausage. Here's one showing their trucks. Queen City Sausage is one of the only remaining meat packers in Camp Washington. Huge shout out to Elmer and Mark over there. Thank you very much. This next image, meat and potatoes, neighborhood butcher shops. This was produced by Julie Kramer of Edible Ohio Valley. The data was given by Queen City Sausage, and this is showing you the independent retail and meat markets in Cincinnati. So the red dots represent places that used to be. The blue dots represent current butcher shops, if you will. So this is showing you that throughout the last 100 years, we used to have butcher shops all over the place. This is the central business district that we're showing. Here's Camp Washington as we come up the Mill Creek. And of course, a lot of these are no longer in operation. People go to their big box grocery stores, Kroger, Walmart, etc., to get the meat that was normally provided by a neighborhood butcher. Another awesome part of Cincinnati's history is grape cultivation. So back in the day, Nicholas Longworth planted out Mount Adams. So this current piece that we're looking at was done by Reed R. Radcliffe. It's mixed media. It's called Searching for the Catawba. And this is the current plot plan of Mount Adams. Here you see the museum, the streets where people live. But if you step back, you see the image of the grape bunch, right? The grapes on the vine. So Nicholas Longworth planted the Catawba all throughout Mount Ida, which was what it was called before it became called Mount Adams. And the Catawba grape had been planted and domesticated actually down in Vevey, Indiana, which is just down about an hour and a half southwest of here on the Ohio River. And he brought the Catawba up here and he planted it. And the story is that the German immigrants loved this sweet white wine, which was reminiscent of some of the Rieslings that they would get back in Germany in the Rhine Valley. Very colorful. This next piece, this is the Eco Garden permaganic plot plan, which was done by Luke Ebner. So the Eco Garden exists on North Main Street, which is right across from Rothenburg, a CPS school, which has a rooftop garden. You can see the fenced-in area here. This is where Permaganic lives officially. However, they have planted out this entire area. So guerrilla garden in a sense. This garden has been in existence since the 1980s. It was started by Eric Pulowski of OFA. and has successfully fought off 2 or 3 attempts by developers to come in and develop the spot. And so as part of the Edible City project, we contracted with Luke to create this plot plan. So now we have evidence of what used to be in case it ever does get developed. Mark Harris has done an African plant diaspora. So this is understanding all of the genetics and plant material that came over across from Africa to the Western Hemisphere during 400 years of slave trade. This is a very powerful piece. Mark did an excellent job showing that the plants, it's really all about latitude, right? Similar latitudes can support similar style vegetations around the day length and some of the ecology there in those systems that happen. This next piece, this is this is Farm to Table, the role of immigrants in Cincinnati's food-related industries. This piece is working with the New American Economy and Compass Cincinnati to get information to represent the immigrants who are involved in production, who are involved in processing, who are involved in the food prep. Often a lot of immigrants work in restaurants, a lot of immigrants work in the fields, picking the food that provides all of us sustenance. This next piece, this is called Apple Cast, and this was done by Terrence Hammond. This is silk screen on Stonehenge paper, and this is a tribute to Johnny Appleseed. We've got a little bit of a glare here. Johnny Appleseed came through our region. He basically followed the Waterways, and he went up to Columbus from Marietta, which is in the southeastern part of the state. And Johnny Appleseed, of course, worked ahead of the pioneers. He would plant apple trees on plots of land and then come back years later and sell them to the pioneers that had come around at the time. So he was actually ahead of the curve in that sense. And of course, apples were primarily used to make apple cider, which was the national drink prior to Prohibition. Another really unique, interesting piece of the Cincinnati region history is that the modern beehive was invented in Oxford, Ohio. Lorenzo Langstroth figured out what's known as the 3/8 inch bee space. This is the magic space that was needed in the removable bee frame hive, the supers. That was part of the invention, was that you could actually not destroy the hive to get the honey, because you could lift these supers out and then extract the honey. This piece was done by Scotty Bellissimo, and it's graphite on paper. And so if people just take a moment and think about the extent to which beekeeping has revolutionized our entire food system, if you think about the extent that we now truck bees from one coast to the other, following waves of the pollination that need to happen, from the almonds in California, to peaches in Georgia, to some of the fruits that come out of Michigan in terms of the cherries and the blueberries and things like that. This next piece, this is called Natural Resources. This was done by Aaron Blazer. This is embroidery of black walnut dyed fabric. And this is showing you some of the native perennial edibles. So we have black walnuts, we have service berries, we have maybe some elderberry going on here. And this is simply a spice bush, Jerusalem artichoke, for example, as well. And this is showing you some of the perennial edibles that are native and or have become really successful here in our region. And then something that I forgot to show you initially, which was mentioned, was the timeline. Timeline goes all the way back to about 1795, and it traces major innovations in terms of transportation, in terms of refrigeration, in terms of farms, in terms of nonprofits that play in this space. This timeline graphic was put together by Julia Glenn, who is an undergraduate DAP student at the University of Cincinnati, who also did extensive work for a lot of the graphics that have come out of this project. So thank you, Julia. So with that, thank you very much for joining us on this virtual tour, and stay safe.